Everyone, welcome to the May 8th meeting of the Ramapo Local Development Corporation. I will ask our secretary to call the roll.
Ms. Charles,
Here.
Mr. Wanunu, Mr. Weissmandel, Mr. Rossman, Mr. Speck.
Here. And I will ask our secretary, AKA Deputy Clerk Maureen Payhush, to lead us in the pledge of the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda, we have the acceptance of the minutes from a meeting held on March 27, 2019. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review the minutes. And we also have, there's also the minutes of March 13, 2019. And that's it, I believe. Was that correct? Or am I reading it wrong? No, it's only one, March 27th.
Yes, March 25th.
Very good. Does anybody wish to make a motion?
Supervisor, on the question, there are no minutes, it's just resolution numbers.
Oh, I have the minutes in my packet.
Those are the minutes, right? Those are the minutes right there.
He's not supervisor, he's president.
Just this little bit?
Yeah, it's
Oh, okay, so it's
3 pages, yeah.
It's kind of
The
flimsy.
one is the minutes.
Okay,
All right, is there a motion?
so motion.
Motion to approve, seconded by Ms. Charles, seconded by Mr. Wanunu. Discussion on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 3-0. We'll go on to item 2, personnel. There's a request to hire a part-time bookkeeper for the RLDC at the rate of $35 an hour. I'm going to ask Treasurer Mr. Lynch to fill us in on this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Speck, and Board. As you recall, we set up a temporary arrangement with consultant Ben Mandel, an ex-employee of the town, and he's been doing an excellent job, but his work duties in his new position have made him less and less available. At the same time, a highly qualified candidate became available who's ready and able to take on this assignment. It's 20 hours a week, part-time, to basically do the books and records of the RLDC. And obviously, for us to keep in line with best practices, we want the books and records up to date and the reports out on time. So I ask you if we could hire this person on a part-time basis.
Very good. And for the record, this person's name is Frances Artha, and we actually, I believe, interviewed her,
Yes.
myself, you, Chief of Staff Montal, had an opportunity to meet with her. Does any member of the board have questions for myself or Mr. Lynch or Ms. Montal about this matter? Then I'll entertain a motion to,
I have a question.
certainly.
Or request. I didn't have the opportunity or the invitation to interview her, so I'd like a copy of her resume, if possible, because I don't have it. No, I don't, this is not a resume.
No.
No.
Okay.
All right.
Could I have a copy of the resume, please? And I'm sure she was treated properly by the supervisor and Mrs. Montel and yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Is she a former CSEA worker? Is she in the union? Is she
No, she is not.
department head?
She did serve for 5 years as the treasurer of the village of Pomona. So she's also got a bachelor's degree in accounting.
Excellent.
And she also is proficient in the QuickBooks, which is the platform, the software platform that the RLDC is on. So
Is she a CPA?
she's not a CPA.
Okay.
And this will be an at-will appointment. There'll be no $35 an hour, no benefits. Am I
That's
correct?
correct.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion on the floor?
Motion by Ms. Charles, second by Mr. Wanunu. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 3-0. And then we'll go on to item 3, which is reimbursement for purchase of safety netting at Palisades Credit Union Park.
Sure. So, Mr. President, as you know, the RLDC is very conscientious about making sure that the safety and well-being of the individuals that are in the stadium are attended to, and last year, we had made a determination that this was a necessary expenditure. It is part of the town's obligations, the LDC's obligations, and we are asking you to approve the payment with an offset for that payment within the reimbursement from Bottom Nine Baseball. And the total cost was $62,000. The Local Development Corporation agrees to reimburse Bottom Nine, basically, who laid out the funds for us at that point in time, $47,150. The town had paid part of it already. And this is basically, it allows them to deduct from what they owe us this amount of money. And the safety netting is the same type that's used in the major league fields. It has actually protected more than one individual from getting hurt, and we're asking for you to basically ratify this reimbursement to Bottom Nine Baseball. It's not a cash out.
If I may supplement what the Chief of Staff indicated, there was a court case that came down that upheld a substantial judgment against a facility that did not have the netting. So even though it had been looked at before, timing became an issue of getting it up. So the proverbial, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Very
So
good.
just I'm sorry.
And if I can also clarify, I'm also asking for permission for the LDC to go ahead and pay $15,000 back to the town so that the entire cost of the netting would be borne by the LDC. It's an asset that's going to last for more than 5 years.
Very good.
So why is this not the ball team's responsibility?
Our facility.
So we're responsible for
So
everything?
whoever has the deepest pockets is going to get sued, so it's in our.
No, but that's a
interest.
secondary thing, but meaning, in theory, the tenant wouldn't be responsible to make sure the safety equipment is
It's a
there?
capital asset. We pay if a chair goes down, we pay if,
Somebody
if a
trips in
light
the
goes
parking
out,
lot.
if,
Okay, so, the town laid out the money? and-
only 15,000.
So, okay, and now we're asking
The
so
town is
who laid
gonna
out the money for the other part?
The boulders.
LDC is going to reimburse the town the 15,000 that it laid out. And the boulders owed us money, and they're gonna reduce what they owed us by that amount of money to pay for the capital expenditure.
Why do they owe us money?
What? They owe us money for their annual,
The annual license
Licenses
fee
agreement.
from the boulders.
So they're just gonna deduct this
They
amount?
deducted, correct.
So I have a question. Just waiting on.
No, please,
Councilman
please.
Benoit. So we already, didn't we have a netting? Didn't we buy this already? So we're buying a new one?
No,
No, this is
old
the same one.
This is cleaning up the books and records for the purposes of making sure that everything balances out appropriately so that Mr. Lynch is comfortable both on the town side and the LDC side with the transactions that took place. We had
Okay.
discussed this once before, you're correct, when we did it. And now this is an adjustment in the books and records for official purposes.
So we already have this
Yes.
netting?
It's already
That is
done.
correct.
And when do we get the netting, Mr. Lynch?
I believe it was installed last spring, the spring of
Before the
18.
meeting.
So going to what council was talking about, there was an incident?
There was a court case that came down which upheld a judgment against, I don't know if it was a municipality, but it was against the people that were involved with the stadium.
Not against us?
No,
No,
not
no,
against,
no,
I'm sorry.
no.
I mean, that was kind of like the motivation to move it up a little
To get
quicker.
it. Okay,
yeah.
I see.
And now we're responsible to maintain it?
We are.
Yes.
anyway.
Anything further? If not, I'll call for a
We
motion.
meaning who, the town or the
RLDC.
RLDC?
The RLDC.
RLDC, okay.
Is there a motion?
Oh, yeah.
Motion by Mr. Wanunu.
Primarily responsible.
Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Charles. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 3-0. Item 4, new business. Does anybody have any new business to bring up at this time for the
Just more of an
LDC?
update. As I think most of the boards are aware, we have a proposal that went out for the new D&O policy for the RLDC. So far, the same carrier who's helped us out in the past has agreed to continue offering their services. at the same amount. We won't have an increase as of now, which is good news. But in addition to that, we actually this year had the ability of going out to other potential carriers. So we're still waiting to hear back from them, but at this point, it looks like we won't have an increase, which is the good news. And we actually have one person at this point who's interested in, I guess, underwriting us. So that's just more of the update.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Great. Any further new business? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion by Ms. Charles, seconded by Mr. Wanunu. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 3-0. We stand adjourned. The town board meeting is scheduled to start promptly at 7, so it's now 18 minutes, it looks like, of 7, so we have a little bit of time.
Be nice to her. She doesn't have any water for you.
I'll call to order the town board meeting for May 8th, 2019. I'll request that the deputy town clerk call the roll.
Councilman Weissmandel,
He's entering as we speak.
Councilman Rossman. Deputy Supervisor Charles.
Here.
Councilman Wanunu.
Yeah, yeah.
Supervisor Speck.
Here. I'm going to ask Highway Superintendent Fred Brin to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to take a moment of silence in memory of Nathan Overman, who was a longtime employee and of the town of Arapahoe and friend to many people here. He passed away recently at the age of 90. Nate was, in addition to his work in Ramapo, was an employee of the New York Times for many years, and he was also a veteran of the Korean War. So we would all like to remember Nate. Thank you. We'll start with the public participation period. Again, we allocate 3 minutes to every speaker. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak at this time? Mr. Romanowski, sir.
It's Robert Romanowski, 183 Maple Avenue, Muncie. The first thing, I was going by the Finkelstein Library yesterday, and I see that the town clock there has the wrong time on it. Maybe that's something that could be looked into. The other thing I want to comment on is the passing of Nate Oberman. I want to offer my condolences to his family. Now his two grandchildren, his son-in-law David. He'll be missed, as you said. He served his country during the Korean War. He spent a number of years here as the receiver of taxes. I found to always be a very friendly and personable man who liked to talk to you and had a lot of interesting things to say and talk about, and he will be missed. I just want to thank him, though, for his service to our country and to the town of Ramapo, and I would ask him, may the town of Ramapo make good adjourn this meeting in his memory. Thank you.
That's a very nice suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Romanowski. Anyone else in the public wish to speak at this time?
Good evening. Thank you, Brendel, for giving me the opportunity to introduce my program. Tamicha Support Line is pleased to notify you about our new homeschool.
I'm sorry, if I could interrupt you. If you could just give us your name and address first.
Okay. My name is Pearl Kaufman.
Thank you.
I will hand out these
Address?
400, the address of the office is 400 Drella Boulevard.
Okay. Go ahead.
I can go ahead?
Yes, you want to
Yeah.
give out the papers to the clerk,
Should I?
so the board members will have a copy? Okay. Maureen, can we stop the clock, please, for her and give her, reset her? Thank you. Okay.
Thank
that's
you.
fine. Thank you. Okay. To the clerk?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Good evening. Tamicha Support Line is pleased to notify you about our new homeschool program, Gesher Achayim, which means Bridge of Life, a program for children who fall through the cracks, children who struggle in the mainstream school system yet are too high functioning for the special education schools. Bridge of Life's method of education is based on self-directed activity, hands-on learning, and collaborative play. In Bridge of Life, students are taught to make creative choices in learning, while the classroom teacher offers age-appropriate activities to guide the process. Bridge of Life is a secure and organized homeschool program where high expectations are set for both staff and students. Our mission is to significantly raise our students' academic and socio-emotional status so that upon completion of the elementary program, students are ready to continue in mainstream middle schools as successful adolescents with healthy mindsets. We thank the supervisor for the generous grant of $3,000 in 2019. In the past years, Tamicha has received a yearly grant of $5,000. In year 2018 and 2019, there has been a $2,000 decrease. Due to the rising expenses of our homeschool, we respectfully request to reinstate our yearly grant to its original amount. So I thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Mrs. Kaufman, can you go back to the podium? And so this is, it's not a Brendel board, it is all of us together, and the supervisor and councilman to my left and to my right, and council and the clerk. So why are you here this evening? What is it that you need?
I would like to request if the original grant can be reinstated due to the high cost of the homeschool.
I think what we'll have to do, we have your letter, we appreciate your coming in. I think the board would have to review this. We'll have to speak with our finance director and look over when we allocated money to not-for-profit groups. We did it for certain reasons, and we had to keep in mind the overall budget. So these are things we'd have to look at. But I think I can speak for the board. We'll be happy to review your letter and consider your request at a future meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else from the public wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Does it have to be germane to what you were talking about?
No, any
okay.
subject.
Ed Levy, 7 Wendover Lane. I'd like to bring a matter to the attention of the board. Aggressive driving in the town has been on the rise and is leading to a dangerous situation. It is mainly on the part of school buses and taxis, but the general public has picked up the bad habit as well. By aggressive driving, I mean the drivers tailgate, blowing their horn if you aren't driving as fast as they would like you to go. They nose out of side streets and driveways, engaging in a game of chicken with drivers who have the right of way instead of waiting until traffic clears. The buses turn corners at unsafe speeds and turn into oncoming traffic lanes. There are a lot of impatient and frustrated drivers out there who, when the main arteries are clogged, use the side street to bypass the main roads. They make up lost time by driving aggressively and at unsafe speeds on quiet residential streets while children are at play. I don't know about solutions. Other than stopping the increasing housing density in the town, I have no suggestion to alleviate this hazardous condition. But I leave it to you, the experts in governance, to find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levy. I'll just tell you that we do have a traffic safety committee that meets every week. Councilman Weissman and myself are on it, along with the police chief, the highway superintendent, and other town representatives. We will be having a meeting next week with the representatives of various bus companies. We've met with taxi companies, so we are trying to address that problem as well as other traffic problems.
Well, very good. Thank you.
Thank you for your bringing this to our attention. Anybody else wish to speak? If not, I'll call for a motion to close the public participation period. Motion by Councilman Rossman, seconded by Councilman Wanunu. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Closed. We have one executive session item on. There's a litigation matter. Deputy Town Attorney Gittleman is present to discuss this matter with us. I would ask that we take that next, and we'll try to keep that as brief as possible. But I'll call this time for a motion to enter into executive session to discuss pending litigation. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Wanunu. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. I'll ask that everybody vacate the room with the exception of Town Board, Ms. Gittleman, Mr. Lynch, and Ms. Montel. And, oh, I'm sorry, and Ms. Condon, absolutely. Executive session. Motion by Councilman Rossman, second Councilman Wanunu. All in favor, anyone opposed? We're out of executive session. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on with the agenda. I can sign that for you. Thank you. Which class is it for? Oh, okay.
Yes. Speed racers here.
There you go. You're welcome. Okay, our next item, item 2A, acceptance of the minutes of the meeting held March 27, 2019. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Wanunu. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. B, acceptance of the meetings of the meeting held April 4th, 2019. Moved Councilman Weissman, second by Deputy Supervisor Charles. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. And acceptance of the minutes of the meeting held April 8th, 2019. Moved Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Weissman. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. We'll go now to the town attorney agenda. Mr. Lynch.
There are several tax certiorari matters. The first one is the tax certiorari with Hemian Holdings LLC. Town Attorney's Office recommends a settlement. The refund of total town taxes would be $1,378.08.
Is this one ready? I know there was one you were waiting on paperwork.
This is the one that's ready now. This next one, we're waiting on paperwork.
Very good. So your office has looked into this and you believe this is appropriate and you're recommending it?
That is correct.
This is all new from the workshop. We didn't have this many at the workshop.
No, we didn't. We're going to take them off. It's a mistake.
No, no, no,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is, oh, so
Yeah.
we need to waive a 24-hour rule?
We should do that now. Yeah, I would say,
Because it
yeah.
seems like a lot more than what we did the other day.
Yeah, we're actually, believe we're all, do we have any other surcharges that we're going to be able to hear tonight, or the others are not ready?
Well, we have the calculations, but you may want to consider those at your police commission meeting as an alternative. If the board hasn't had time to look at them, there would be no problem in having these heard next week.
After the legal department, I'm assuming, is approved everything?
We recommend every one of these here, but we certainly have no objection. If the board wants to look at it further, we could address these during the police commission meeting this week coming up.
What?
I defer to the resolution.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we waive the 24-hour rule anyhow for the meeting, and then we'll just decide, we'll do this one first, and then we'll decide. So at this time, I'll call for a motion to waive our 24-hour rule. Motion by Councilman Rossman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Charles. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Now we're looking at Bohemian Holdings LLC. We have a recommendation by the town attorney to enter into the settlement. Is there a motion to approve the settlement?
Move.
Moved by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. We'll go to the next one. which
That's
is-
one, Mr. Supervisor, I have a request we hold. We're still waiting for paperwork for the Airmont Village Square matter.
Very good, so we'll put that off to another meeting. And then the others, I believe, were all one property or one action with multiple properties?
Well, Pomona Park Realty is one specifically in which there's just one town refund of $239.03.
On the agenda, the AWH properties.
I have Pomona Park Realty
Pomona Park.
just before that.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. My apologies.
That particular Pomona Park Realty one, the recommendation is to settle it with a total refund of town taxes of $239.03.
All right, so is there a motion by Councilman Rossman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Charles? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. We'll go to the next one.
This is,
EWH Properties LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and members of the town board. This is one we also recommend, in which the total refund of town taxes will be $229.02.
Very good. Is there a motion?
Move.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Item 5, Pomona Office Condo LLC.
This, again, similarly related with the town, the refund, if the board approves and the town attorney's office recommends, of $239.03.
Is there a motion? Motion by Councilman Rossman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Charles. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Item 6, Lens Real Estate Corporation.
This particular one, the town attorney is recommending a settlement. The total refund of town taxes will be $502.76.
Is there a motion?
Move.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. Number 7, ARND Properties LLC.
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board, this is a matter which the town attorney's office recommends. The total refund will be $562.87.
Motion? By Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Number 8, 11 Medical Park Drive.
This particular one is also recommended by our office for settlement. The total refund recommended would result in a $390.58 refund to the property owner.
Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Number 9, Mall 103 LLC.
This particular one would have a recommended settlement with a total refund of town taxes of $325.71.
Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second to Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0. Number 10, Fox James W. and Ritter.
Again, this particular one is recommended for settlement. The total refund would be $276.45.
Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Number 11, Mid Park Associates Incorporated.
If it pleases the supervisor of the town board, we, as a town attorney's office, recommend a settlement. The total refund would be $353.53.
Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Number 12, ELA Tiger Realty LLC.
This particular one, the town attorney's office would recommend a refund settlement in which the property owner would receive $276.47.
Motion? Move. Second? Motion by Deputy Secretary Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. Number 13, Shannon Family Realty.
On this particular matter, Mr. Supervisor, the town board, the town attorney's office recommends a settlement. The total refund of town taxes would be $431.62.
Is there a motion?
Move.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Number 14, Palisades Medical Holding.
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, town board members, again, the town attorney's office recommends a settlement. Total refund would be $502.76.
Is there a motion? Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 4-0. And last but not least,
The-
Shannon Family Realty.
Shannon Family Realty matter, if it pleases the supervisor and the town board, the recommendation is for settlement. This is the amount of $562.06.
I have a question about that. What's the difference between this and 3A13?
I think it's different properties.
It's all Medical Park Drive, and each one is a separate unit.
Yeah, these are office
But the
condos.
section lot is the same numbers.
They're all the same, except you have to look at the unit number to tell. So
Yeah.
it's Unit 205
Oh, I
versus
see.
Unit
Okay.
204.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Very good.
That's-
Motion by Deputy Supervisor
Yes.
Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Councilman Wanuna, did you vote on the last one?
I told you, yes.
Okay, good. And anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Lynch. We'll go on to item E.
Yes, on the Pascack Ridge project, there's a recommendation by the town attorney's office and the planners involved to extend the written comment period from May 6, 2019 to May 20th, 2019, to better provide the public with an opportunity to comment on this particular matter.
We discussed this at the workshop on Monday. I'll just ask that if we approve this, that we put a notice on the town's website as well, informing the public of the new comment date.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. We'll go to item C, settlement of the claim, Town versus Glass.
If it pleases the town board and the supervisor, a police vehicle was damaged. The settlement offered by the insurance company for the driver who damaged the vehicle is $378.96. That's the cost of repair. We recommend a resolution.
3,000.
3,000, what, I'm sorry. what-
Right, this makes us whole. This is our full.
Yes, sorry about that.
Any further questions? Then I'll call for a motion to approve. Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Wanunu. Discussion on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. And we'll move on to item D, acceptance of the proposal for outside counsel.
Yes.
Firm of Jacobowitz and Gobitz.
If it pleases the board and the supervisor, our proposed new bond counsel was this particular firm, which has extensive experience. The hourly rate is $250 per hour. It's very reasonable. We recommend that the services be retained.
Well, let me just correct you. They're not actually would serve as bond counsel. They would serve as zoning and planning and land use counsel. That was what the intention is, to hire them.
What are the rates?
The rates also, I think we have an update. I think the purchasing director was able to negotiate a better rate. Ms. Montel, what rate did they agree?
30, I believe it was.
215.
215?
We're bidding against ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, 215 an hour,
215?
215.
Across the board?
Yes.
That was it, yeah, across the board.
Hats off to the chief of staff here.
I
So-
tried at 200, I didn't realize it was 250 when we spoke. I thought it was 225, but their actual request was 250.
200,
And I went to 200, they said no, and I think we settled, I think they wanted it at 225, and I got them down to 215.
So we'll ask that the motion, the resolution be amended to reflect that the hourly rate of $215 and call for a motion to approve.
On the question, are we replacing or are we adding for the purpose of
Okay.
counsel?
So actually, we do need to amend we need to terminate our relationship with that other firm, too.
We do, we should do that next week. They're to replace the firm that we're using for the strategic, Northeast Strategic Plan. Also, we would want them to assist us in updating our code and possibly representing us with the zoning and planning boards as well, among other matters.
And they do bond work, by the way.
Let's move on, but we already have bond
The
counsel.
other attorneys are used for strategic.
I forgot the name, it's,
Lawrence.
But we're not
Yeah.
we're gonna use them
Lawrence
now,
Howard.
right? Okay.
very
In,
good.
in addition to that, I'm sorry, Supervisor, in addition to
Sure.
that, they'll be picking up, the legal work for building, planning, and zoning as well?
We anticipate that.
Okay.
We would see, how the relationship develops. But it's something that's within their expertise, and they're available to do it.
Okay. And to whom do they, answer to?
Well, to the town, to the town,
to
to
the
us, to the
town
town board, to
attorney's
myself.
office? Okay.
Well, they would work with the town attorney's office.
Okay,
but
I
they
see, I
would
see. Mhm.
Answer to us.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Is there a motion to hire Clerk Copeland? Motion by Councilman Rossman, seconded.
Yes.
By Deputy Supervisor Charles. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Stay.
Carried 4-0, one abstention. We'll move on to item E, which is to retain other outside counsel, and this is a name to us.
We have, if we may, Mr. Supervisor, we have not done the complete background check yet on Mr. Berman.
We don't know where he's worked previously.
Right, we're trying to get a recommendation from a prior employer, but there's a mystery why he left. I think it dealt with some crackers in the town attorney's office missing, but the recommendation is to bring Mr. Berman back on a straight independent contractor basis, $175 per hour, which is extremely reasonable, for approximately 10 hours per week for the excellent work he's done with tax exemptions and such other work as needed in the town attorney's office. We recommend highly that, once he clears the background check, Mr. Berman be retained.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Lynch about this? Do we need him?
Yeah.
Do we need him? I'm sure we
Again?
do. Hello, everybody.
He's usually at most meetings anyway, so.
You got the motion.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Rossman. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I'd be shocked if somebody opposed that.
No.
Carried 5-0.
Okay.
And then we'll move on to item F, amendment of a prior resolution.
If I may, this was a prior resolution we had, but we are amending it now to provide that the police department will be reimbursed $2 for every accident report sold through Carfax with regard to the police program service. We recommend the same.
Very good. And we had previously agreed to enter into the Carfax program, but the thing that was left out was the fact that Carfax will reimburse us. So we negotiated, or the chief negotiated that $2 rate with them. Any questions? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve.
Moved.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Item G, agreement with Blue World Day Camp.
I thought we were.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what the end result was. I was just gonna add, did anybody talk to Michelle?
I haven't heard. I think we should
I'm
hold
gonna
off
ask her.
on this until we know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes. no, it's,
Yeah, we wanted
have
to
a meeting
increase
on
the fee.
Thursday.
Why don't we hold it off till the next meeting?
Yep. I know we asked her to ask, I believe, I just don't believe we've heard back yet.
Okay, we'll move on to item H, authorization to file a third-party complaint in the matter of D.O. and Joseph O'Brien versus Town of Ramapo.
Mr. Supervisor, town board members, there's a current lawsuit pending by the O'Brien family against the town. Town Attorney's Office recommends that a third-party action, which is an action to help the town pay for any damages, be commenced against the two individuals set forth in this particular matter. We're seeking a defense and an indemnity with regard to this, in this third-party action.
Yeah, this was discussed at length at the executive session during the workshop on Monday. It concerns a bouncy castle mishap and a very unhappy birthday party. Any questions for Mr. Lynch? If not, I'll call for a motion. No.
No, we will do it. Town Attorney's Office, we'll bring the action. There'll be no extra cost. We'll keep Mr. Berman away from this particular one, so.
Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Rossman, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0. Item I, acceptance of easements, 18 Cedar Lane.
Right, there's shade tree, stormwater inspection and maintenance easements with regard to the 18 Cedar Lane property, which is on Cedar Lane by the intersection of West Blauvelt. We are requesting that the supervisor be authorized to execute any maintenance agreement or other required documents.
I believe the DPW is recommending that we accept this. Any questions? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Motion.
Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded Councilman Rossman. Discussion on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Opposed.
You opposed?
Yeah.
Okay. Carries 4-1. We're going to item J, acceptance of proposal, Malinaro Associates.
With regard to our assessments of the SCAR proceedings for 1 or 2 families, we always have the need at times for an appraiser to do some appraising. Molinaro Associates has recommended that they be provided the opportunity to give those appraisals. It's $550 for 1 family, $800 for 2 to 4 families. There's a daily rate for being in court or half a court. In consultations, $100 an hour. We believe these rates are reasonable and recommend acceptance.
Any questions? If not, call for a motion.
Move.
Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Wanunu. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. Item K, authorization to file disciplinary charges against the Parks and Recreation Department employee. We will not reveal the name of the employee due to the fact that it's a personnel disciplinary matter. We discussed this in executive session on Monday at the workshop.
Supervisor Gilbert, I would recommend that the board authorize those charges to be filed, and those charges would not be made public until such time as there was a finding. We would ask the board to approve that, and also the suspension for 30 days without pay.
Any questions?
When were we starting it? Wasn't that a condition when that was going to be started?
The suspension?
Yeah.
The minute we file the charges, you've authorized it?
We just did it- Wasn't there a talk of us like,
It wasn't here anyway. It wasn't here.
okay.
He left.
Okay. Motion to approve? Motion, Councilman Wanunu. Second, Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0. And then we have L, which is related. This is to appoint a hearing officer to hear the charges that we just authorized. We have a motion to appoint Charles Apotheker, retired Supreme Court Justice, at a cost of $250 an hour as an independent hearing officer.
Well stated. That's our recommendation.
Any motion? Motion
You should
by
vote the same way. You made-
Councilman Wanunu, second Deputy,
Who did it the last time? Same thing.
I don't remember.
Rossman.
Do you want a second motion, Mr.
Yeah.
Rossman? Second, Mr. Rossman. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0.
That concludes the town attorney's part of the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. We'll go on now to the purchasing agenda. Ms. Montel, item A, rejection of bid.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, we're rejecting the lack of a bid for the 4th Street Bridge deck rehabilitation project.
Didn't we determine the other night that if there were no bids, we
We
don't have
did,
to do a
because I'm not
resolution?
exactly sure why that yes,
So-
sir.
So why don't we?
It's
use
already
the-
out for
We
rebid.
rebid it.
Correct. And the same thing,
Item B,
well, no, item B, there was an issue, the highway superintendent has recommended we reject bid, the specs had to be corrected for adjustments that he wanted to make to it. So we're asking you to reject the bid, and we are out for rebid.
motion to reject the bid?
We didn't do it.
No, we don't have to because there were no bids received. So there's no need to reject any. So there's a request that we reject the bid as there needs to be a change in the specs. Is there a motion by Councilman Rossman, second Deputy Supervisor Charles? Any discussion?
Where is this? Which sidewalks?
Also, it's generic, it's per linear,
Oh, so it's not a specific
No.
area that
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0.
4C is off the agenda.
Very good. And then D, declaration of surplus vehicles.
I know Councilman Wanunu really wanted the last item on
I
this list.
can't believe you left it on.
I'm telling you, you know
It's a
what? It's gonna be with Sonny and the
1967
Machine.
tow truck.
Well, I think he's welcome to come bid for it.
Yeah, I
right?
think
It's a
we're gonna put together
I gotta- Who's gonna help me push it?
We're all going to chip it and leave it in front of your house.
That's not a problem. You deal with my wife.
You can make it a planter. So I'm asking
See
permission
that?
to.
That was good. That was a
Very
good
good.
comeback.
I report just that our
It's not
recent auction was successful. We actually brought in more for our vehicles, slightly more than we had anticipated, as was determined within our budget of what we thought we were going to be paying for our leased vehicles, and so this will continue on that path with these vehicles.
Very good. Is there a motion? Motion by Councilman Rossman, second Deputy Supervisor Charles. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. And we'll go to item E, approval
well,
of the agreement.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to hold this because you asked me to negotiate this price. We haven't been finished doing that yet.
Very good.
We are going ahead, so the public should be aware completely. We will be having fireworks that night, just a matter of our negotiating a price with them. I have not had the opportunity to speak to them directly. I will ask that we put this on the agenda for the police
Why don't we
commission
just put
meeting.
it on up to this amount?
Okay, not to exceed 16,000.
Why would it be coming out of the operating budget, not Parks and Recreation?
Because, that is, we have a special budget line for this item, and this is the town hall, because it's not a parks function, it was always a
Oh,
town
okay.
function. And there's a specific line that you have in the budget, that's why it says CEL for celebrations. You used to spend close to $60,000-$70,000 per year, and you're now down to, I don't know, less than 20, I
About
believe.
20,000.
So we want to, I think, Councilman Weissman suggested we vote for it with a cap on it, and then you can.
Thank
Oh,
you.
does that take away our negotiating power?
That's
You know what
okay.
the cap is.
That's okay. That's right. You can
This way
accept
we
this.
put the
Pressure on
public at
me.
ease.
Right,
that there's
that's
gonna
correct.
be
Will be
an event.
fireworks.
It will be, we will be proud to present Ramapo Day at Boulder Stadium that day. All Ramapo residents will be invited to the game and other festivities, in addition to the Liberty and Pride show.
That will be June
at the-
30th.
And I just want to be clear, it is my birthday, but I don't want them to think that I had
We will have a
fireworks
special
turned off for
fireworks
me.
display in honor of you.
Had
It's
nothing-
gonna- It'll be
has
no
nothing to do
cost,
with
there's
it.
no cost.
Yeah, with the happy birthday.
I think you should have-
Skyscraper,
No.
If there's a cost to put your name up
Oh,
on the
no,
board,
no, no.
I'll be happy
No,
to.
no, no.
Mandel, I think you should abstain.
I'm definitely going to abstain. Someone will try to make that connection, so.
So Brendel's paying for the
Got it.
tickets
Oh,
for the
no.
entire town.
Oh,
We have a kosher birthday cake, please?
no, no. Yes,
I motion that Deputy
Chocolate
Supervisor
will
has a birthday on June 30th. Lives in, is well on that day.
Hammerstam?
I think, in honor of your birthday, you should make the motion.
No, I'm good. No, thank you.
Anybody wish to make the motion then? Councilman Wanudo, seconded by Councilman Rossman. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
So the motion carried 5-0 with the amendment that not to exceed
Got it.
$16,000.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now turn to personnel. Ms. Condon.
Thank you. The town board has previously approved a resolution to accept a proposal from Greenwald Doherty to conduct state mandated sexual harassment training for all town employees. A date had been set, but due to an extension from New York State, the training date was moved forward. So this resolution amends the training date.
Very good. Any questions? If not,
I used to actually contracted with them. I should be out of the contract with them. I was just thinking about voting. I should be out of contract with them. No, on.
with Greenwald Doherty?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you feel, do you feel you should abstain, or if
No,
you're not sure?
I should have been expired for me right now. Yeah, I should be fine.
You disclosed it publicly, and if.
I had previous business with them.
You have no interest in the contract right now, you believe?
And the contract
You
was
can be fair
already
and
voted
impartial, you
on.
can vote.
The contract was already voted on and approved. This is just changing a date.
Okay.
I think you did abstain.
He did.
Last time?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
I think you, at that
Fair
point.
I'm out of the company, so whatever. Okay, I'll abstain.
Just
That's
continue.
I'll move.
Motion by Councilman Weissman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Charles. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0 with one abstention.
The next resolution is a civil service housekeeping matter. Sharon Hemler was appointed as a provisional personnel assistant. She had to take her civil service test. She took it. She did well. We're now appointing her from her list. The salary stays the same.
Is there a motion? Motion, Councilman Rossman, second Deputy Supervisor Charles. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Give our congratulations to Sharon.
I will. The next resolution is a resolution to reclassify two positions. They were assessing clerk 1 in the assessor's office. They've now been reclassified by the county of Rockland to be assessing clerk 2s.
Is there a motion? Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second. Councilman Rossman, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0.
The next resolution is appointing a current employee to that new Assessing Clerk 2 position. Rosaria and Franca Gambardella is currently in Assessing Clerk 1. We're promoting her to Assessing Clerk 2.
Any questions from Ms. Condon?
Would I be able to ask for the future that we write what their salaries are going up to?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Great. And is there a motion?
Yeah.
Motion, Councilman Wanunu, second, Deputy Supervisor Charles, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried 5-0.
The next resolution is a similar one. We're promoting another employee in the assessor's office from Assessing Clerk 1 to Assessing Clerk 2, and that's Joanne Carlotta.
Any questions? Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, second, Councilman Rossman, discussion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you. We'll go to thank you, Ms. Condon.
Thank you.
We'll go to item 6, Parks and Recreation. Ms. Antosca's not here. Ms. Montel, could you stand in for Ms. Antosca?
Yes, I can. I believe the supervisor, is this the one where he has a resolution or?
Yes. We have an alternative resolution for item A, based upon discussions that were held at the workshop. I'll read it out if the board wishes, and then somebody can move it if they choose. Whereas the town owns and operates the Ramapo Cultural Arts Center in the Village of Spring Valley, whereas the town board wishes to study the continuing operations of the Cultural Arts Center, whereas there are current occupants and/or licensees who have outstanding amounts due to the town, and whereas there may be certain occupants and/or licensees who are not current with permits and/or insurance, and whereas the town board wishes all occupants and/or licensees to be on notice that there may be a cessation of further use of the center pending the board's completion of study of the operations of the facility, now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Ramapo that the town attorney's office is hereby directed to provide written notice to all licensees that all outstanding permits, monetary arrears, and/or insurance must be remitted within 10 days, and be it further resolved by the town board of the town of Ramapo that the town attorney's office is to forthwith notify all occupants and/or licensees that they must vacate the premises within 8 weeks of the date of said notification.
May I ask, also add one more whereas, which would be that that the Director of Finance is authorized to only pay the electric and gas bills. You need that authorization.
Absolutely.
We're at, okay.
Specifically electric and gas?
Well, whatever
No,
it
you should
says,
say essential.
essential services.
Yeah, what about
Electric, gas, ice, snow removal, compliance with all,
What about the window?
Well,
that's all taken
separate.
care of. That would have to be, any emergency service or other item would have to be brought back to the board at any number. Any and all expenditures other than utilities must be presented to the town board for approval prior to anybody entering or occupying the site. We don't want to have a situation where a vendor is called in to do something without prior approval of the town board. That is, I believe, the desire that was made to me on Monday evening at the
I
workshop.
think that summarizes it correctly.
So if the town attorney's office could amend that resolution based upon the verbal amendment, the board could then move forward to vote on it that way.
Does anybody wish to move that resolution?
Can we clarify the study? I mean, I thought we've been studying this for a while now. Can we clarify a procedure of where we're going from here?
Do you want to say as a procedure, based upon a procedure set up by the town attorney's office?
No, I'd like
Oh,
to
you want to really
understand
understand
what
what
are
we're
we
doing?
doing?
Okay.
We've been looking at this, we've gotten various reports. Councilwoman Charles has provided the more information, Mr. Lynch has provided more information, Michelle has provided more information. And I think it's time to at least decide where do we go from here. If we go from here to study it further, we should determine and understand what are we studying further, and what is our end game.
I think one thing we discussed is whether it'd be worthwhile to license it out to some organization that would operate it, and continue to use it as a place of cultural and performance activity.
That would be fantastic, but are we going to pursue that
So
forthwith?
somebody
or we-
has contacted us already in reference to that. We could do it by RFP if the board so chooses.
The question is, are we going to pursue that now, or are we still waiting to gather more data? Like, let's just.
Well, I think we could do both. I think we could explore that now. We could either do an RFP or meet with groups that are interested and see what they propose, and at the same time, if we need to keep studying data, and then we'll come back to the board and reach a conclusion.
And what happens now in the time being? As far as, let's say, new
I think
people,
the resolution is clear. Anyone that's signed on, as long as they are current and they provide
and
proper
any new
insurance.
people are we looking at right now?
I think if there's anyone new and if it's a short term, it should come to the board. At least we should be polled so that there's no surprises.
Sounds reasonable.
And I think there was the concept of licensing agreement is out there. There was, talk about that previously. I don't know how you'd want me to pursue that.
The what?
A licensing agreement.
Well, if we're pursuing licensing agreements, and you say there's one that expressed interest in this one we know about, and we could find others. I think the Cultural Arts Center is in a very appropriate spot. It's a great location. It's a great service to the surrounding community. It would be a shame to have to wind the available services down, but we have to find a way to make it financially feasible and sensible to the town and the taxpayers. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Very good.
So, do I get an opportunity to speak now?
Well, why don't we-
I don't have a copy of the resolution,
Here
because
it
this
is.
resolution doesn't match the one that's in
Yeah.
my packet. So do the rest of you have this resolution as well? Because I wasn't here on Monday night. I had a death in my family. I
I
wasn't
don't
able to
know.
come to the workshop. So you have many inaccuracies in this resolution, and I don't think that you should move forward with this they have been resolved. So to your point, Councilman Weiss-Mandel, unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here. I had a death in my family, and because of the fact that we did have an agreement that was supposed to be signed many months ago, and I'm really not clear as to why that agreement was not signed, but I have been in contact with Mr. Lynch to go over the numbers, the insurances, and the rents, and to date, there is only one rentee in this building who is behind, I believe, this is now May, so they have not paid for their May rent. So, having said that, I don't know if you want to choose to move forward or not, but
Well, I'll ask this.
I would
What is
vote
your
no.
concern, Councilman?
what was my concern?
Yeah, which language? Let's look at the specific language. We could just amend it to say whereas there may be current.
Right.
So it says the current occupants and/or licensees who have outstanding amounts, that kind of encompasses everyone.
Well, why not?
So that's
not
right,
the
there
case.
may be.
That's
Right,
not the
we'll
case.
mirror the language of the next line, that there may be certain occupants. Yeah, why don't we change that?
Who are not current with the permits or insurance. Everyone is current with their permit and their insurance. That is completely inaccurate. The town board wishes all occupants and lessees to be on notice that why is there a notice? And to me, this is a slippery slope. We've kind of fell into the same situation with some other properties that we had, where we were dictating notices without having the full story. And we had to back out of that situation in order to make sure it was amicable for both parties. And so here in the therefore resolved, notice hereby written notice to all licensees at all outstanding permits, monetary arrears, insurance will be remitted in 10 days. There's nothing really to remit because I have all this documentation. I do not understand why Michelle Antosca doesn't have it all, but I have it, and it will be in the hands of Mr. Lynch or the supervisor first thing in the morning. If I could have it brought over now, I would, because definitely there's a miscommunication there. So I will vote no to that resolution.
So, Mr. Supervisor, to Councilwoman Charles' point, I think we should add some verbiage here too, that notice will be sent to anyone that's, and if there's arrears or the missing documents.
That's fair.
I will say, Councilwoman Charles, as far as the notice, I think we owe it to these licensees or whatever permit holders, whatever their status is, to make them aware of our intent to look for a licensing building. Some of them may be interested in doing just that. B, if we find a certain user, and that certain user would have different plans that would impede their being in the building, I think we owe it to them to give them proper notice.
I agree. They definitely should know what the intentions are of members of the board. And in addition to that, I think that to your point where you said we want to make sure that the taxpayers are covered, and I agree. And I would like to make sure that this project, this particular property and all the other properties, that we follow the same suit and make sure that they are doing what they're supposed to do and not just singling out the Cultural Arts Center.
May I
look
suggest,
forward to that.
along those lines then, that we amend the language of the last paragraph, so instead of reading forthwith notify all occupants and or licensees they must vacate the premises within 8 weeks, something along the lines of that their licenses may be terminated within 8 weeks or after 8 weeks of said notification. To put them on notice that it's subject to future development.
Which paragraph are you in?
The last paragraph.
And don't forget, you have to add that you're authorizing the finance director to.
Right.
You could take the resolution 6A and simply add it to that if you so choose.
Well, Mr. Supervisor, the last whereas, which is 3 paragraphs up, that addresses notice. That should
Right.
be clear. That should go out to all peoples or entities utilizing the building, giving them notice of what our intentions are. The next 2 paragraphs should be specific for those that are in arrears or for those that are missing documentation.
Mine
It should not include anyone in good standing, which hopefully, according to Councilman Charles, is everyone.
My
We'll save posts.
That is correct.
Then that's my Mr. saying, my belief was that we wanted to give everybody notice that 8 weeks might be the terminal point.
That's 3 paragraphs up, whereas the town board,
Right, but that doesn't state a time, that doesn't give a time frame.
so that's what I said earlier, that we have to clarify that whereas.
That's fine. So why don't we do that, then why don't we amend the third paragraph from the bottom to state, whereas the town board wishes all occupants and or licensees to be on notice that there may be a cessation of further use pending the board's completion of study of the operation of the facility
Or the possible
or
licensing.
possible licensing thereof.
And I just want to be clear, and so what is the reason why, if the Cultural Arts Center is running well and better than it has been in previous years, what will be the reason to evict the current tenants? What's the goal?
Well, it wouldn't be an eviction, I mean, they're licensees. I think as Councilman Weissman.
What would be the
pointed out,
purpose of wanting to remove them?
If we enter into, for example, a licensing agreement with another entity, their licenses would have to be dealt with directly with that entity.
I would think that we would get into a agreement with that entity first before we would notify the people that we now have a new person who's running the center, and then notify them. But we're going to notify them first before we have the RFP sent out?
If the licensee is going to want to have the building vacant and go down a different path of their vision of a cultural arts center, they have to have the ability to know that that can happen.
I don't think it's their vision. I beg to differ on that. This
No,
is the
but we don't know
Ramapo
this
Cultural
person
Arts
is.
Center's vision. This is the vision of the town,
So,
not
but
necessarily
we will be
the entity.
selecting- But we can be selecting the right person who will offer the subcontract and subleasing the rest of the building once we agree with that vision. We don't have to hire that person at this point.
No, you don't have
But
to hire that
We're going
person.
to be getting a company out there who shares our vision.
Okay, look, I'm not sure, I'm not clear on that vision, what that vision is, because I'm not unified in that vision. I'm unified in the vision of making sure that that center is utilized for the people in that community. So I'm not sure if we share the same vision, so in that I will vote no.
Does anybody wish to make a motion to approve this resolution as amended? Motion by Councilman Winonu, second. Second, Councilman Weissman. Any discussion, further discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Opposed?
Carries 4-1. We'll go to item B, authorization to pay vendors for goods and services for the Cultural Arts Center.
Move.
Is there a second? Moved by Councilman Weissman, second Councilman Rossman. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. We'll go to item 7, Highway. We have Mr. Britton, the Highway Superintendent, present.
Thank you, Supervisor of the Town Board. I'm requesting that 8 Highway Department employees be able to attend the annual Cornell Local Roads Highway School in Ithaca. The Cornell Local Roads Program provides training and technical assistance and information to municipal officials and employees who are involved with the maintenance, construction, and management of local highways and bridges in New York State. Funding is provided by this entity by the Federal Highway Administration, New York State Department of Transportation, and numerous municipal and county entities throughout the state of New York. The Highway School features 3 days of sessions ranging from dealing with water and drainage, winter maintenance and snow plowing, emergency response, local road safety plans, pavement preservation, worker safety, how to deal with utilities in the row, and situations like that. So 8 employees I would like to send 8 employees. 4 of them are my highway foremen. I've opened it up to 4 additional employees. I feel that education is important for my employees, and each one is mandated to attend all the sessions, and the foreman that'll be there. I cannot attend, I have a personal conflict, as does one of my other foremen, so typically there would have been 6. In this case, I opened it up to the 4 by lottery as a chance, pick it out of the hat for 4 additional employees, and as I said, they will attend classes for those 3 days, and actually will have short presentations to the rest of the highway department when they return. The amount for the 8 of them to attend includes the registration fee, the hotel fee, meal money, and the registration actually for the school itself. So that cost comes out to $5,800, and I am respectfully requesting that the town board approve that. It will come out of it is budgeted for, the source of funds are listed in the resolution.
Any questions for Superintendent Britton? Ms. Montal?
Yeah, 2 things. One, since the superintendent is not going, I think the resolution should not reflect that we're taking money out of his budget line, right? It should only be out of the DB lines. So I would ask that you cross off 5010A.3465, which specifically is for the superintendent of highways school. So he's just told us he's not going.
So amended.
And the other question I have is to Ms. Condon, which I'm sorry, I don't mean to bring this up now, but I just don't want to do something that we're going to have a problem with. Mr. Brin mentioned, Superintendent of Highway Brin mentioned how he chose the next 4.
So I did clear that with the union.
That's what I just wanted to be
Thank
said
you.
publicly.
Adam Peltz and Chris Vogel were aware of
That-
my method of choosing them, and they had no problem with it. Adam Peltz was actually going to choose the guys himself. I said, no, I'd like to do it, so.
So I just
It was
wanted
done
that on
by
the,
blindfolded, pick it out of your hat situation.
right, I just wanted on the record that in fact you did take the precaution to make
100%.
sure that's happened so that we don't end up with a.
Thank you for
I
doing
did
that.
clear that with the union for
Very good.
So
Any-
with that amendment on the source of funds,
I'll call for a motion. Motion, Councilman Nunu, second, Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 5-0. We'll move on to item 8, Department of Public Works. There's a proposal that we accept a proposal for a survey for bridge replacement at the Schlossberg Cemetery by Sparaco and Youngblood in the amount of $9,900. We discussed this on Monday at the workshop. The director of DPW was there, and he answered our questions.
I don't know that he answered all of our questions. Did we get I believe we got an email, but the board was waiting for that email and an opinion from our attorney's office in reference to that. I haven't seen that documentation today, and I know the board really wanted to see that before they voted on this.
Do we
So
want to table this into a later meeting?
it's, unless somebody saw something that
I'll correct you. We did not discuss to hold off the resolution for that. We did intend to hold off the resolution until the proposal is amended to reflect the floodplain, the
Wetlands.
wetlands,
That's correct.
and it's not there.
That's correct. I think we received confirmation that it would reflect the wetlands, but it's not in the actual proposal.
I am going to propose, but this has been going on for a long time, that we put it up for a vote, subject to that being included in the price.
That sounds good.
The source of funds also was not mentioned. I thought we were going to work on that.
Do we need that?
We said that was going to be the town, it comes out of the town attorney's office.
Very good. All right.
Consulting line.
So there's a proposed amended resolution which reflects, the amendment is that the price for the survey must include any wetlands delineation, would that be it?
Necessary wetlands.
Necessary wetlands delineation. Is there a motion?
And you want the agreement to reflect that, not only the resolution.
Correct. No, the proposal.
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
I think we're also waiting for the confirmation of ownership from this.
Well, I'll remind you, we at the workshop determined that if we get the survey, that'll answer the question.
Right, so
So we needed the survey
We
anyway.
gave up waiting for the answer.
No, no, but
You don't want to
they
be
were
part
supposed
of
We
it.
figure we'll pay for it.
Right.
Once they get the information, I think we were waiting for them to notify us to take the action.
I think now that you have
Yeah,
Mr.
you'll-
Berman on payroll again,
Right,
that
we'll have
you can
somebody to
ask
tell us
him,
things.
give us the information and
But the
reference it.
survey will shed light on that.
Okay, good.
Very good. Is there a motion then for the amended resolution?
Moved.
Motion, Councilman Weissman, seconded, Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries 5-0. We'll go to finance, Mr. Lynch.
Yes, thank you. 13A is a technical amendment to the budget. We have received $12,274.53. It's a payment pursuant to the pilot agreement with Sneeden Place, which has been there for many years. And the pilot agreement specifically designates that those funds should be used for DARE activities. So this is an amendment to the budget to reflect the receipt of the funds, the revenue, as well as providing for DARE expenses in an equal amount.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. Is there a motion to approve? Motion, Councilman Wanunu, seconded, Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carries 5-0. 9B.
Is it 9 or 13? Okay.
It's 13.
Item B.
I have 9.
9,
Yeah, we
it's
have-
9.
Okay. Item B is, we've received from the county, Rockland County, forfeited funds of $1,016.08. And again, a technical budget adjustment to record the revenue received and also record the expenditure for drug-related costs.
Thank you.
Which is, these funds are supposed to be specifically used for that purpose.
Do we verify that that shouldn't be more? Like, how do we know? We just accept what we get?
How do you verify?
I don't know.
It's
Is there
pretty much
is there a
a
ratio?
function of, we don't really have control over how much they,
It's a windfall.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
$1,000 we didn't have.
I'll move it.
the last item is, the
No,
item
we
C.
didn't
vote.
vote yet.
They
There's a
didn't
vote.
motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilman Wanunu, seconded, Councilman Rossman. Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carries 5-0.
You just made $13,000.
Item C.
Item C is a request on my part. There is, we have an amount of $15,000 that are funds remaining from a bond that was issued back in 2006. There's no feasible purpose for those funds, so the best practice would be to transfer it to debt service and use it for payment of debt service related to that bond. And that treatment has been signed off by our bond counsel.
Any questions for Mr. Lynch? Is there a motion?
On the question, I thought we were outsourcing again to someone else to run the rustic tennis and the.
No, that's not
That's
that
the
one.
next item.
We're on the
We're on
capital
C.
transfer to
Okay.
debt service. Motion by Councilman Rossman, second. Councilman Wanunu, discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Now 9B.
Right, so 9D relates to the rustic tennis facility, and it also relates to the Saddle River Pool. So, at the time the budget was prepared, the board decided, in the case of rustic tennis, that the intention was to seek a third party to outsource the management of the rustic tennis facility to that party, and as a result, No expenses were provided in the budget. Subsequently, the Director of Parks and Rec, in conjunction with discussions with the board, made the decision that in fact we should open that facility and have it run by the town. And so therefore, in order to provide the expenditures necessary to run the facility, it was put in the brochure, the Parks and Rec brochure for this coming season. We need to reclassify $68,500 from the contingency reserve to the rustic tennis category so that the funds are there legally available to pay the expenses to run that facility.
Well, in addition, aren't we also allocating money for the Saddle River Pool?
I was going to then say the same thing about the Saddle River Pool. At the time of the budget, the same thought was in hand that we were going to outsource that to a qualified party. Subsequently, the decision was made to have the town open the pool for the season, and likewise, we have to reclassify $152,850 from contingency to the budget categories for the pool so that the funds are legally available to run the facility.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. Any questions for Mr. Lynch? Call for a motion?
Yeah, these properties were running at a deficit, and I was in the budget meetings when we decided that they were going to be outsourced. So on the recommendation of Michelle, based on what? These properties were not making any money as well. So we're now going to take money out, put it into rustic tennis and Saddle River Pool. I just want to be clear, right? And we're still running at a deficit, so we're going to lose money again.
In fact, the estimate on the pool is that it will actually run at an operating surplus if we achieve the revenue levels that are projected by Michelle and her team on the pool side. In the case of the rustic tennis facility, it would be a small operating deficit, $8,500 based on the projection.
But nonetheless, a deficit.
In that case, yes.
Okay, and that's a projection. It's not written in stone.
Of course.
Right? So a budget is like approximate. So I wasn't a part of that discussion. Why is it necessary to reopen these facilities if they're going to run at a deficit, whether it's $8,000 or $8 million?
Well, I could answer that because we made a commitment to keep both the pool and the the rustic tennis open. We were not able to get a licensee in time for the season in either event. Whether or not it would even be feasible to license them is something that has to be further studied. But we committed to keeping them open, and we have to pay for it.
I see.
That's accurate.
Is there a motion? Motion, Councilman Rossman. Second on the motion?
Before we vote on the motion, I would just like to know, Mr. Lynch, how do we know that the revenue generated from these two sites will be replenished in the contingency budget where we're taking money out of? Is it coming out as a loan or just as a transfer?
So when the budget was adopted by the board, you provided a $500,000 contingency reserve so that, and that money can only be used with the board approval by resolution. So in effect,
That's what we're doing here tonight.
we're taking that out.
My question is when the revenue comes in.
On the revenue side, right. It really, yeah, see, the thing is.
I'd like to see, my understanding is we didn't budget nor on the expense side nor on the revenue side.
No, there was.
Small revenue.
There was an error in the budgeting, and there is in fact revenue budgeted for both.
How much?
In the case of the pools, it's $400,000. It's in my briefing.
For both
And-
pools?
For both pools. And in the case of rustic, it's $60,000. Both of those revenue estimates were based on the run rate from previous years. So, assuming reasonable weather, reasonable season, I believe those revenues are reasonably achievable.
This is purely a contingency line item.
Yes,
It's a one-way.
yes.
So, Mr. Lynch, you mentioned, I'm sorry, Supervisor, you said the other pool as well, Saddle River and Spook Rock?
Spook Rock, well, that revenue was for both pools combined, I believe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so all pools and the rustic tenants, all of them were working at a deficit?
No.
We made money last year? Off of
No, I don't think
pools?
that's correct.
I don't recall exactly. I think there might have been a small deficit, operating deficit in the pools last year.
Okay.
Okay, and rustic tenants?
Small operating deficit.
So they all had a deficit, small or not, they had a deficit.
I
Am
believe so,
you
yes.
correct? Okay. So we're gonna reopen Rustic and we're gonna reopen Saddle River on a projection and a recommendation from Michelle.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry?
No, he was talking to me.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I didn't hear what the last sentence was, because you veered off. What did you say?
I
You
that-
said you believe, I didn't hear the last word that you said. You said you believe that it is true? It was a deficit?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so, and the projection now, and her recommendation is that we're now going to reopen these, and we're going to now have a profit, or we're not sure. We just think that we're going to. We're not actually sure. Is that correct? It's just a projection.
Yeah, I mean, there's not 100% certainty because we're making an estimate of what's going to happen in the future.
Okay,
But our estimate is definitely based on an analysis of past practices. And also the board approved raising the rates, which would definitely enhance our ability to bring in more revenue. And I think, you
yeah,
know,
we
those
raised
assumptions-
the rates at the Cultural Arts Center as well, but, speaking of pool, because it is May, what are we doing with the Spring Valley pool? I don't see that in the resolution as well.
We made that determination when we passed the budget, that as that's not a pool that we own, we would notify the village that we would not be maintaining it for them this year, and we did notify the mayor back in the fall of that fact.
Was that by board resolution?
It was in the budget.
Because it was our pool, so we gave it back.
It's not our pool.
It's
never
their
our
pool.
It's their pool. We gratuitously repaired and maintained it at a loss, and the board made the decision in this year's budget to not do that this year.
Okay, so we're not opening the pool anymore. That's their
It's
job.
not budgeted for this year.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion? Do we have a motion? Maureen, did we get to a motion on this?
Yes, there was a first and a second. I just interrupted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So there's discussion, any further discussion on the motion then? Then I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Opposed.
Carried 4-1. We'll go to item 10, supervisor's item. This is a resolution in support of the family of Paula Bohoveski regarding the proposed parole of her killers. One of the advantages we've had in the last years, or the first time in a number of years, we've been able to work cooperatively with the other 4 towns in the county of Rockland. And as supervisors, we meet on a regular basis. We met yesterday, and we work on items that are mutually beneficial to all the towns. And we also have done items where we all express support for an issue that we believe benefits or all the towns have an interest in. We did so somewhat recently regarding anti-Semitic comments by a congresswoman. This, for those who are not aware, this refers to a terrible crime that took place in 1980 when Paula Bohoveski, who was a high school student, a teenager, was walking home from her after-school job at the Pearl River Library, walking home the 2 blocks to her house in Pearl River, and was raped and murdered by 2 men. They were convicted and sentenced to 25 years of life in prison, and every 2 years they come up for parole, and it causes great hardship to her surviving parents who have to relive the terrible crime and loss of their daughter from 39 years ago. So this is a resolution that was prepared by one of the other towns, and the request was made to all the supervisors that we join in and do a joint expression of condolences for Paula Bohoveski's family and sympathy with them as they have to face the potential parole and request for parole by the 2 people convicted of murdering her. So I'm going to recommend that we adopt this resolution as well and join in the other towns in doing so. I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution. Seconded by Councilman Weissman. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? carried 5-0. And again, this is not a resolution that I think any town wishes to have to make based upon an incident that nobody wants to see happen. But I think it's the right sentiments to convey in this situation. And we'll go on now to new business. Is there any new business by any board member? Then we'll go on to supervisor's report. I have nothing to report at this time, in the interest of getting out of here before it gets too late. And we'll go to councilman's comments. Council members, if any of the council have any comments or
I was just,
interest?
I would just like to express my frustration again about the fact that we have workshops, we request information, and 2 days later we come to meetings and the information is still not provided. I'd like us to, going forward, appoint someone, be the keeper of these notes, and be responsible to make sure either the information is provided or the said item is yanked from the agenda.
That's a good idea. Who do we want to appoint?
I guess it should be the clerk, but
Yeah.
sorry, Marie.
Well, I don't usually attend most.
No, I
workshops,
understand
so-
that. Why don't we discuss this? When is Mr. Sampson back?
He's back tomorrow.
Perfect. Why don't we discuss that with him tomorrow, and whether he does it or delegates somebody, or we come up with another alternative, but I think the councilman is correct. We need better follow-through in general on the request so that we don't have to table items and we can get more done at the meetings. Anybody else have any comments?
Just want to refresh the supervisor's memory of Mr. Romanowski's suggestion about closing the.
Thank you. I was intending to, but thank you for that
You
recommendation.
might also want to acknowledge and send your sympathy to the students and families in Denver, Colorado, specifically to mourn the loss of 18-year-old Kendrick Ray Castillo, who was senselessly killed in that event. And our hearts all go out to the families and the students.
Of course, absolutely. So at this point, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn in dual memory and honor of Nathan Oberman, a longtime friend and coworker at the town of Ramapo, as well as Kendra Castillo, and who lost his life in the school shooting. I believe I read today that he actually heroically saved another student from being shot and gave his own life in return, as well as the students who were injured in that event, which unfortunately we're hearing happen all too often in this country. So I'll make that motion. Is there a second? I would actually ask that we all unanimously second and join in. And vote aye. And thank you. Stand adjourned.